Hello everyone, welcome back, and thank you for joining us on the Live Unreal with Glover U podcast, where every week Jeff Glover and his coaches will dive deep into the questions that you are asking. They understand the challenges you are facing on a day-to-day basis and still work every day on the front lines of real estate, with Jeff and his team closing over 1,000 homes per year. In today's episode, Jeff Glover and Glover U head coach Kate Simon will begin the Real Talk with Real Producer series, starting with episode 1, Market of the Moment. We will learn from Jeff and Kate what's happening in the market right now and how it will affect the real estate business and what you need to do to survive the new normal. Now, let's hear from Jeff Glover and Kate Simon.
All right, so we're talking today about the real estate market. You know, it's August. It's been a definitely interesting year, to say the least.
Yeah.
Interesting is probably there's probably a better word for that. I don't know.
Right.
But a lot of people are kind of concerned about what's going to happen because everyone thinks that this busyness that we have right now is like fake, like it's false, it's pent-up demand. And I think to some degree it is. I mean, it is pent-up demand, and that is why, the market's hot right now because so many people had to put their plans on hold. But will there be a crash coming, right? Like, are you hearing that from your clients?
Well, I'm hearing that question a lot, and we got that email yesterday. I don't know if you read it, but when we sent out the database email, we got some questions that came in.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the woman's name, but she was essentially saying, "Hey, do you guys see similar trends to 08, 09? Is this a bubble? Are we in for another one of those recessions?" And I have an anecdotal opinion about that. Obviously, I don't have a crystal ball, but I think it's important to understand that, like, when we talk about a recession or a crash, we have to almost go like 5 steps before that, right? Like, what led to the 08, 09 crash in the first place? Well, it was primarily banks writing faulty loans to people who were probably overspending than what they needed to do.
Yep.
So if we look at what has gone on in the last 10 to 12 years in real estate, that shouldn't have been happening, right? Now, I'm sure there's still some banks that
is that the same person that said, "Now I know you're both a little young and probably weren't around there for that."
Yeah, even though we were like literally in the middle of it when it was happening. So when I hear that, I look at, do we have the same precursors for that crash? And the answer is no, right? Like, for instance, I think it's very possible that in the next 3, 6, 9 months, however long, we are going to be dealing with sellers who lost their job, companies that had to downsize. That's real, right? Yep. Like, that's a factor. That said, those sellers right now, most of them, if I think of like my whole circle or everybody I know, if they had to sell right now, they have equity in their house. It's not a short sale. They'll probably make money on their property. They might have to downsize. Yes, it's an unfortunate situation, but it's not the same financial crisis of, holy crap, I can't sell this for what I have into it.
Unless they bought in the last few years, right? Because if you bought in the last few years, or even the last year, let's just say prices didn't go up at all, you're still, on a $200,000-$300,000 house, you still have $15,000 to $20,000 in selling expenses. That's not easy just to stroke that check. Think of it. If you bought your house last year and the prices didn't go up at all, and you own a $300,000 house, which is probably the average sales price around the country for the most part, then you're at $20,000 out of pocket if you had to sell.
If it's a balanced market. And I think in some parts of the country, we're seeing it a little bit more balanced than others. But a lot of our clients right now, I'm kind of doing like a temperature gauge with them. If you're working with sellers, what's the climate? If you're working with buyers, what's the climate? And across the board, across the country, doesn't matter what market they're in, buyers are on their 5th, 6th, or 7th house. Sellers are getting 8 to 10 offers. So yes, in a balanced market, would the house they bought 12 months ago be worth more? Probably not. But in a market of supply and demand, could they squeeze that additional 15, 20 out of it? I think they probably could.
Right now. Right now. Yes.
Yeah.
But 6 months from now? 9 months from now?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Right.
If there's not multiple offers and there's not bidding wars and there's not things driving the price up, then no, you're looking at probably selling it for about the same price and having $15,000 to $20,000 in selling expenses. Now, if I would think in that particular case, people would probably work something out with their lender versus foreclosure, right?
Yeah.
I think that, there's a lot of hype. I'm seeing everyone predicting, oh my God, the foreclosures are coming. And like you said, I don't see how it is anywhere near like what we saw in 2008, 2009.
Yeah, I don't either. And listen, I obviously could be wrong, right? And there's no way to necessarily predict what's going to go on with coronavirus, how long they're going to keep certain markets, certain segments of the market shut down. But the reality is, when we look at 08, 09, I look at the precursor, the 10 plus years that led up to that collapse, and we just don't have that right now.
Yeah.
We don't have the same.
Now it is easier today for a buyer to get a loan than it was, say 5 years ago. So it has gotten easier, right? You've seen more 0 down, 3% down. You've seen a lot of those programs. So in theory, that was similar to 2004, 3, 5, 6, 7, right? They were giving money to anybody. So that we're almost there. I would say, based on what I see from buyers, who they're loaning money to is like, if that was scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the absolute, like, literally you could fog a mirror and you're getting a loan.
Right, sure.
One being you have to, like, commit, all your assets to the bank. We're probably, and if 2004 was a 10, because that's literally what it was. Like, Just get you could be a server at a restaurant. Just get your manager to write you a letter saying you made $80,000 in tips last year.
Yeah.
Honestly, that was verified income.
Have you seen The Big Short? Have you seen that movie?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, that's like one of my favorite movies that kind of talks about it.
Yep. So we're not there, but we're pretty close. I mean, yes, they're verifying income, and they're they're more strict with that. But we're not too far from that piece, right? So, and low money down loans, right?
Yeah, sure.
0, 1, 2, 3% down is pretty normal right now,
I anticipate more of a commercial recession that trickles down to residential, right?
Yeah.
So I drive through downtown Birmingham right now, and it's like for lease, for sale, for lease, for sale, and it's like when you start to see these commercial buildings.
Right.
I mean, we talked about this, last week, where it's like we have these huge corporate companies that are now essentially telling their employees, you can either work from home indefinitely or work from home through the end of the year. And like, you better believe that the people at the top that are paying those rents are going to be evaluating performance and asking, how much do we need this lease space?
Yeah.
Right? So I anticipate a lot of companies that are going to either shift their model to be partially remote, or kind of like what we were talking about, have almost like a core admin team at the office. And I think that's going to trickle down. And then the second thing I'm kind of looking at is, look at, for instance, the vacation markets that have a lot of tourism, or the markets that, need concerts and festivals and a lot of those things that probably aren't coming back until 2021, maybe even later. Like, I think those subsegments of the market are definitely going to get hit hard. And will that trickle down to the rest of the market? Absolutely. But for instance, we talk to a lot of our neighbors in our community. And, I know it's different in each community, but for the jobs that a lot of the people in my community have, like, we have not been financially affected by the virus. And we feel blessed to say that. But not every career, not every industry is being affected the same way. There's some industries that have made more money in the last 6 months than they have in the last couple of years. Yeah. So it's sort of like, is that enough to balance it out? Or are there going to be these pockets of recession in other pockets of people flourishing?
Probably. I mean, and we are in a city, we're coming at you from the American city of Plymouth, Michigan today, but in Detroit, I mean, auto manufacturing, right? So we were, in 2008, 9, and 10, we were a double hit, right? We had all the mortgage problems that everyone else had, but we also had the auto issues, right?
Yeah.
So, I think if it can happen here, then, pick any town in USA where they rely heavily on blank, whatever blank is, then they could be, equally impacted.
It's the non-diversified markets, right? So if you look at a general area and you say, oh, we're known for X, or oh, we're known for Y, like those are the markets that I think are at highest risk, like Detroit was. I mean, thankfully, and I think we've done a pretty good job over the last 10, 12 years of like diversifying a little bit more. Yeah, we obviously still have the auto industry, but we've got, other industries propping us up. But I think the non-diversified economies are going to going to struggle a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and you made a good point with commercial space, and specifically, obviously, most of our listeners. By the way, Jeff Glover and Kate Simon here with you today. Most of our listeners, obviously, are real estate agents. So
Sure.
I would be considered, or I would be a little bit concerned about how, if I'm an agent out there today, and I'm used to doing business one way. I'm used to coming into my office at this time. I'm used to, pulling up my chair at this time. I'm used to, writing out a to-do list at this time. I'm used to going through my routine, saying hi to Carl on the way to the coffee pot or whatever. A lot of real estate brokers, I'll tell you, are looking at their productivity right now and the size of their space. I mean,
you have to be.
Even at JGA, we are known for, you go work at JGA because the environment is high energy, high enthusiasm, accountable. Like, that's part of the value proposition. And right now, our offices are like 50%, there's definitely, and of course I justify it as, well, our 50% is probably still better than most offices, right? That's my justification for it. But the reality is, if it's going to operate at 50%, do we need to operate in the same amount of square footage? And the answer is probably not, right? Like, we just built a beautiful 6,000 square feet space in Brighton, right?
Sure.
An up-and-coming town in Michigan. And number one, it's empty because it's brand new. And,
sure.
It's not like we relocated or whatever. Like, we literally are building it from the ground up. But when I look around, I think, gosh, are people just going to be comfortable working from home if they realize they get the same results? Now, I know, and you probably hear this, I talk to agents all the time. Oh, no, that's not me. I have to go into an office. I can't work from home. I can't have my kids screaming, or too many distractions. I'm not productive from home. So
Sure.
I do think that the real estate office of the future, it's not going to go away, right? There's companies out there, touting this whole idea of virtual and everyone works from home, and even those companies, by the way, you see the bigger producers going and getting space because they know in order to attract agents, you have to have a physical space.
But it's going to be that balance of, okay, what's the ROI on that physical space, and is there a way for us to make it as profitable as possible? Meaning, do we have a smaller home base for these agents to plug into where we do maybe office meetings, team building stuff?
Correct.
Rather than everybody having their own individual agents, because I think what we're
big training rooms, tall, long tables where people come in and plug in and come and go. Maybe a nice conference room or consumer, front consumer facing stuff.
Sure.
But the days of walking down a long hall with private office after private office after private office, I think those days are probably numbered in the real estate industry.
I think what we're not considering here, because I know you and I have had private conversations of, we just got to get through COVID, but life as we know it is permanently changed. Meaning, I obviously worked from home for really since March, right? And I've come in, a couple times a week here and there when I know you're in Birmingham. But the reality is, I get more value, I get more done when I'm personally at home. So when I check in, it's because I feel like I need to check in. It's not because I need that space personally. And I think that there's a lot of people's mindsets who initially were like, I can't work from home, I can't get through the distractions, that were forced to get through the distractions, who might not ever come back to that workspace. They might forever change how they do things. Now, kind of putting a bow on this and tying it back to the question of real estate, I actually think that it's going to be interesting to see how this affects the real estate market. So last week, the designer we're working with, she was posting this new house, this new project, and they are redoing a space in their house called the schoolroom. And she says, I wonder how many people are going to start having this as a normal part, because there's people who are considering homeschooling full time, getting private tutors full time. And it's like, okay, so now you have this world where people are considering working home from more often. So how does that change their needs in the property they live in? So in a positive way, I think the market is going to have a positive upturn from people who now have different needs. So
I just had on that note, I just had a call yesterday from one of our team leaders in our market centers, and she was concerned about the Michigan governor's order of children, unless they're eating outside at recess or napping, have to wear a mask in school. And she was pretty concerned that, number one, she's against it, which is okay.
Sure.
You can have your opinion on that. But she was concerned that no way, I'm not going to raise my kids like that. Like, I'm not going to make my children go to school wearing masks like that. She used the term traumatized. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Like, think about it, right?
Right. I think, like, to me, when I hear that, and I don't have kids in school, it's a huge wake-up call of how much control we've actually given to the government and given to other people. And I'm not saying that it's the right call or the wrong call.
Yeah.
Right? But as a parent, which I'm not, but as a parent, I can imagine wanting to be the one that's able to call those shots.
Yeah.
And there's a handful of people that, let's say they homeschool for the next year.
Yep.
Maybe that goes so well, and there's people who get RVs and they're able to travel, and they're like, nope, we're doing this. My kid's not going back to school.
Yeah.
So I think in a way, in some of these cities, they're gonna shoot themselves in the foot because they're gonna miss those tax dollars if they don't.
Yes. Okay, but hold on. Let's call a spade to some degree.
Yeah.
There's a large percentage of the population. I would argue the majority that uses school as the free daycare. Right? Like,
so that's the argument right now.
Right?
So that's the argument right now.
How am I going to be able to work 9 to 5?
Well, and that's the biggest polarizing argument, because when we're talking about, and obviously, look, this is a hot subject, but like when we talk about keeping teachers safe and essentially saying like, hey, does it make sense to have these teachers in rooms of 20, 30 kids? Not all of them, but a good chunk of parents are like, yes, because they have to go back to work and earn an income. And I can't disagree with that, right? Like if you're in a household where you need to make income and you have to choose between homeschooling your kid, like what do you do?
Right.
So it's a really tough situation for parents to be in.
And then that trickles back to the economy, right? Because
absolutely.
Then you have people making a decision of, all right, well, I was making $500 a week at this job. It's going to cost me $350 a week to get in-home childcare.
Yeah.
So for $150, I don't know, like that's right. The $150 net left
here's
over
where it's
at the
happening.
end of the
Here's
day.
where it's happening. So I read an article, and I sent this to Krista Schrader because she obviously, like her and I, had a lot of conversations over the pandemic. She's got a toddler at home, and she's got a 10-year-old, and obviously her and Luke both work the job to a high degree, but. When it came to household chores, when it came to raising the kids, when it came to making sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, a lion's share of that fell on her. And so there's articles coming out how this situation, when it comes to putting your kids through school and choosing a career, it's actually falling on the women of the household. And it's no fault of, kind of a fault to men, depending on your dynamic with your partner, but women are having to choose, I guess I can't go back to work this year. I guess I'm going to take a sabbatical, which is going to have a trickle-down effect in a couple years. Like if you look at science-based, research-based articles, there are far less women who have put out publications in the last 90 days than men that have ever. So when you look at who's going to tend to your household, women are going to have to step back in that role if they don't have help.
Which, by the way, was the entire purpose of that call that I had with one of our team leaders of I might be forced to make a decision.
Which sucks. Which absolutely
business owners,
sucks.
Which puts leaders, which puts me in a tough spot.
Well, and it puts women back decades, like in how they've worked to sort of, I don't know what I would do. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
good conversation. Let's get back to the real estate market right now, and what that means for agents like us and producers like us. Obviously, it's a weird time to be in any business, for that matter. I think we're both on the same page that this is a bit of a inflated bubble that we have right now because of the pent-up demand. I think we are both on the same page that we anticipate sales to start slowing, listing inventory to start increasing, and prices to start falling probably 6, 9, 12 months, right? We're on that same page.
I think February, March is when we're going to feel it.
By the way, you should know, I've been doing this for 18 years, so, I've been through, I got into the business during the first boom, right? 2000, the beginning of 03. So I saw 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I lived and survived, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? That's when we opened our first office. And you got in, I think, 2010?
8? No, 2008,
okay. 2008, okay, great. So, we've both came from the bottom and worked our way up through it. So I think we're a little qualified to obviously have the conversation. And at the same time, if we had a crystal ball, we probably wouldn't either be here. We wouldn't be doing this, right? But I think it's fair to make predictions based on our experience. And I think based on our experience, we're both predicting, I think it's safe to say, that 6, 9, 12 months from now, the real estate market's going to look a lot different than it looks today.
I think so. Absolutely.
Okay, so if I'm a real estate agent, I'm a real estate broker, I'm a team leader, I'm a lead agent, and I'm listening to this particular segment in this particular podcast, what does that mean for my business?
Well, I think just in a very simple blanket statement, it means the activities that you're used to doing to generate, let's say X amount of production each year. Let's say you show up every year, you kind of go through the same motions, you do 8 to 10 million a year, and you're happy with that. You're going to have to talk to about 30% more people. You're going to have to do about 30% more activity in order to get those same results. And so this is the example that I give a lot of
Why is that?
Okay. So here's the example I give to, and this is just a small segment, right? So if you're heavy with Sphere past clients, I don't know how those numbers are going to translate. You can probably weigh in on this, but let's take this example. You call expireds every single day, okay? Mm-hmm. Out of a group of 10 expireds, there's probably 5 that are, no matter what, whether it's with you or somebody else, they're going to relist their property. They're going to sell.
Sure.
Okay.
At some point in time,
they're gonna do something.
Yeah, because
right?
they already raised their hand and said, "Yep, I'm a seller. I'm moving." They went through the trouble of having all the showings and inconvenience, lockbox, people, coming through their house, whatever, right?
So at least half of them,
sure,
they're gonna do something. I would say in a normal market, there's another 1 to 2 that don't know what we want to do yet. Maybe we'll rent it out.
10 expireds, which, for those listening, I built my business on expireds. And Kate, when you got started with us, get on the phones and call expireds. So
sure.
We know expireds pretty well. So out of 10 random expireds, you're saying 5, no matter what, going to relist.
Yeah, they're going to do something. And honestly, that number could even be higher.
It could be relist with their same agent. It could be relist with another agent.
They are going back on the market.
It could be 6 months from now. It could be 6 days from now.
They are going back on the market.
Yep.
Then you've got another 1 or 2 that need to reevaluate their financial situation. Are they leasing it out? Are they going to take a hit? They have to possibly do something else. So that's that's 7, right? Then you've got, I would say, 1 or 2 that their plans have changed altogether.
Yeah.
They're going to stay put.
Yeah,
okay?
Because they didn't reduce their price to sell it because they weren't that motivated and their plans changed and they just take it off the market.
So that's 9. So I don't know. You can add 1 more person in there. But those are, would you agree that in 10 expireds, those are the likely scenarios?
Yeah, I would say 50% of them are going to be relisting with someone at some point in time.
Okay.
Yes.
Am I missing any, in a normal market, am I missing any scenarios you guys normally come across?
I don't think so.
So now, in this market, add in at least 3 out of those 10 people who just want to quote-unquote wait and see. Okay?
So it could be 1 of the 5. Could be 2 of the 5 and 1 of the, right?
But what that means is now you need to talk to 13 people to get your usual 10 and 1.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? Because now we have another group of people. Maybe they have a family member with an autoimmune disease. Maybe they are on the brink of losing their job and need to reevaluate, right? You have at least 3 people out of those 10 who are not doing something because of what's going on right now.
So they're fence sitters, basically.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What is the just not to get too deep into it, but what causes someone to say, we're just going to wait and see what happens? Is it fear? What is it? Why? I feel like in my prospecting and my lead follow-up, people go there so quickly. The reason why I'm asking the question is because we talk about the reflex no, right? You walk into a store and you tell the salesperson you're what? You're just looking. I'm just looking.
How
many people are on, when we're prospecting, are saying, you know what? We got an election coming up. Coronavirus is going on. We're just going to wait and see. What? Don't you think there's a percentage of those that's a reflex no?
There is. And this is where, look, this might be an unpopular opinion, but it's kind of my opinion that if you have the luxury to wait and see right now, you're not motivated. Mm-hmm. So I'm telling our clients, whether it's a buyer, whether it's a seller, your people are the 8, 9s, and 10s. Mm-hmm. You're not working with the 7s. You're not working with the 6s because those are the buyers that aren't willing to play in this market.
They're not going to get their offer accepted.
Or they're the sellers that want to wait and see. And now don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with waiting and seeing.
Yeah.
But I go back to peak COVID, right? Peak quarantine. And we closed on our new house April 1st.
Yeah. Right
and it's like, okay, the market was at its all-time low.
Yep.
We locked in a purchase price before any of this.
Oh, yeah.
And
there was like a 2-week period of time.
Yeah, it was like, this is a huge...
Like desperate.
Yeah,
like, we got to get this done, you know.
And there was a piece of me that's like, this is a huge mistake. And I even talked to Andrew. I was like, are we doing this? Like, should we do this right now? But we had the conversation, and the reality was, we need a house. We're going to be here for 10 plus years.
Yeah.
Our motivation's strong enough. We're closing on it.
Yep.
Right? And so I think that there's always going to be fence sitters. Mm-hmm. And my advice is you can talk to somebody about facts. Like, let's say, ask them more questions. You know, hey, Jeff, talk to me about what's important to you about the election. What do you think is going to change? How would that change your position? Like, yes, you can go down that road.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's very little an agent's going to say to turn a 7 out of 10 into an 8 or a 9 out of 10.
Got it.
And so my MO is move on, find an 8, 9, or 10.
Yeah. Which I agree with, because I feel like so many agents hang on to every little lead they can. You know, they hang on to the 5s and 6s because it'll be a sale at some point. They're going to buy or sell at some point. And it's like, do you realize, well, you're hanging on to all those leads. I'm going around you and talking to and finding the people that are ready to do something right now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, all right. So if I'm listening to this podcast right now and I'm running a brokerage, leading a team, solo agent, buyer's agent, whatever, when I hear the term bad market, right? Like, does that just automatically mean that, my income's going to drop? Because I feel like a lot of people correlate that. Oh no, what's going to happen in the market? It's a down market. Does that mean my income's going to drop?
If you're an agent who rode the wave of the market, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. What does ride the wave of the market mean?
So, like, we talked about this a couple years ago, but remember when in, like, 13, 14, and 15, when the market was, like, increasing by 10% a year?
Ridiculous.
And these agents, their business would increase by 10% a year. And they were like, oh, yeah, I'm killing it. I increased my business.
Yeah.
And we were
probably more. Some were, like, doubling business.
Well, if you're doubling business, you're still outpacing the market.
Yep.
But if your business is only increasing at the rate that the market is, you're just showing up and the market's doing the work. And good job. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But if you are that agent, absolutely.
So there's a little nugget in there. And this is something that I do every month. And I used to, I was a jerk before I was an owner at the office next door. I'll never forget, I was part of the agent leadership committee. Real estate offices nowadays have committees.
I still have to deal with that reputation today. I still have to apologize for who you were in your mid-20s.
For the Michigan or Metro Detroit listeners, I promise I'm different today than I was 10 years ago. Because 10 years ago I was cocky. I got the, whatever.
Oh my God.
Anyways, but an activity that I've done for a long time is I look at how we did. So we're celebrating. We're up. Oh my gosh, this July we did 16% more this July than last July. Holy crap, that's amazing. But wait, let's see how the market did last July versus this July. And, so if we're up 16% and the market's up 14%, we didn't do squat. I mean, come on. We can't take credit for that.
Right.
So I'll never forget, I was part of the ALC next door and at the office just down the street. And, the leadership was touting how great they were doing. And I raised my hand. Yep, this was me. I've toned it down a little bit. I raised my hand and said, "You guys understand? Our business is up 22%." In front of the entire agent leadership committee, the team leader, the operating principal, I raised my hand and said, "You guys understand that the market's up 30%, which means actually
we're
you
down.
Underperformed by 8%." Swear to God. And I mean, like, everyone was, because it was, oh my God, we're doing great.
Yeah,
rah, rah,
sure,
this and that.
sure.
It's like, no, you got to look at what you're doing compared to the market, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, trust me, and I hate to be, Debbie.
What
Downer.
a wet blanket, dude.
I hate to be the Debbie Downer in our sales meetings, but at the JGA sales meetings, which obviously you attend most of those, I'll share how we're doing and the success that we're having, and then I'll also say, now let's see. I always basically kind of do a ... Let's see how it compared to the market. Okay, guys.
Right.
The market was down 2% in listings taken. We were up 13%. Nice job. We outperformed it by 15, right? So every single month, agents, business owners, team leaders should be looking at their business compared to the market. And don't pat yourself on the back when you're just riding that wave.
Yeah.
Because the ones riding the wave are the ones that are going to feel the effects when the sales drop 20%. I mean, think about it. If you're riding the wave and, hey, sales are up 10%, 15%, 20%, we got this thing figured out, then you are for sure a candidate for the sales are down 20%, sales are down 15%, sales are down 30%, right?
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
And it's so funny because that probably is why we've been getting, so I was telling Jeff before this that, hey, we've got some really good news about Glover U. We're signing on a couple more one-on-ones this week. And just in general, month over month, year over year, as a company, Glover U is performing really well. And I'm sure it's probably because of this realization that these agents that either got in the business at the peak and rode that wave up are sort of having this oh crap moment of not knowing what their next year is going to look like because they've never really worked off of a plan. They've never really learned how to predict their business. They've never learned how to generate leads. So we are seeing, as a result of that, an influx of coaching clients.
Well, and I know this is probably, slightly controversial, and this feeds into, what people probably say about me or whatever, but I'm always making this statement, like, I am very concerned. There's a lot of fly-by-nights in the industry. There's a lot of top producers right now, posting pictures of themselves in front of their cars and wearing their shiny shoes and whatever, that weren't around when the market was in the tank. They weren't around when the market was down. And, if you think about it, if I had to take a stab at it, if the market's been hot since 2000, we'll just call it for sake of ease, 2015. It's really probably 13, 14. But just say 2015. Don't you feel like most of the top producers, meaning like 80% or more, of the top producers today. Now, you and I come from the old school, so we know a lot of top producers, right?
Sure,
so you got to kind of eliminate that. But for the most part, don't you feel like most of the top producers, and by the way, top producer can be $6, $7, $10, $15 million producer. That's good income. That's a good life. Yeah. Don't you feel like most of them have been born in the last 5 years?
Yeah, I do. And I think that, they're going to have another thing coming to them, and they're going to either be the kind of agents that, like, they learn that grit and they learn how to come through, or they're going to get washed out. And I mean, like, I'm not going to name any names, but I was talking to, who I respect a lot, a pretty local high producer in my opinion. I would say probably peak quarantine. And I said something to him and he's like, oh, to be honest with you, like, I asked him like, hey, how's business? How you doing? How you holding up? Right? Like, how you doing? And he was like, oh, to be honest, I'm shifting to a different, income opportunity at this time. And now, of course, he's back to posting the videos, posing in front of the houses, and it's just like, I would be, no offense, I'd be so embarrassed to meet with a seller and say that I couldn't make it in a 90-day period of time. Number one, without income, like, where's your savings, bro? Yep. And, like, number two, like, so you're just telling me you're, like, a fair weather realtor, like, you don't know how to work in, like, the toughest market, then, like, you don't belong here, to be honest. I mean, that's my harsh opinion, but like you have no business meeting with multi-million-dollar clients when you can't make it, when you can't run towards the challenge instead of away from it. I don't know. I mean, I would be embarrassed.
Well, let's finish with some good news, and we'll wrap this conversation up. In 2005, that there was something like, at the peak, NAR had like 1.4 million realtors. And at the bottom, 2010, that number went down to about 900,000, right? So they went from 1.4 to 900,000. I think that works out to about a 37% decline. Well, the sales in the U.S., the available sales went from, I think it was 5.5 million at our best to maybe 4.9 million at our worst. Don't quote me on these numbers. You can go look these up later. The point is that the sales were only down maybe 20 to 25%, but the amount of agents in the business working who kept their license active, right? So this is not even including the people who still had their license and weren't working, right? So the people who got rid of their license dropped about 35% or so, 36, 37%. So moral of the story is, in a down market, there will always be more to go around. In our experience, there will always be more to go around for those that do show up and put in the time and unfortunately make the extra 3 contacts a day, or make the extra 3 connections, or make the extra 3 Facebook posts, or make the extra 3 advertising campaigns, right? Like, there will be more to go around for that group. The group that should be concerned is again, the ones that are just kind of, showing up, doing the open houses, whatever kind of falls in their lap, or whatever comes from their friends and their sphere of influence and their database and their family. The ones that are just kind of going through the motions but having success, those are going to be the ones that struggle. You were going to say something.
Yeah, so there's a middle ground, right? Like, you're painting the extreme, you're either in the business, or the extreme, you're out of the business. And this is a dynamic I saw a lot of in California, which I believe is going to start being more of a norm in Michigan. I kind of joke, like, when I was a realtor in California, I was honestly treated like a used car salesman. Mm-hmm. Like, every third person had their real estate license. Like, it was, like, not a big deal. Mm-hmm. Whereas here, I feel like it's always been more or less respected. Mm-hmm. This is what you do. This is your full-time job. Mm-hmm. So what I'm noticing more and more, I mean, just in general, in the last week or so, I've had 2 friends that have told me they're going to get their real estate license. And it's like, okay, so you are going to start to see more people entering the market as these part-time, I just do it for friends and family agents. So what that means for the full-time, for lack of a better term, like professional skilled agents, you are going to lose out to listings to the seller's niece who just got their license and they're going to keep it in the family.
Yeah.
Now, is that a huge percentage of the market? No, but I do think that we are going to start to see a little bit more of a sliding scale of who's a realtor, how many deals do they do, and are we going to miss out on opportunities because of that? Probably a little bit.
Well, you bring up a good point because, we started off this particular session talking about the job market and how it's going to be affected and more stay-at-home moms and all that. It just dawned on me like, holy crap.
Yeah.
That might mean more licensees getting into the business.
Absolutely. Because it's flexible.
Work from home, flexible, work when you want kind of thing, which, again, if you're not someone that follows a plan and shows up at a regular time and makes your contacts and follows a business plan, you now have more competition potentially.
Well, and like, to be fair, are they really going to be true competition for somebody who's working, 40, 50 hours a week? Not necessarily, but are they going to scoop up the neighborhood leads or the moms from school?
Sure.
Probably.
Here and there, and one here and there times 50 new people in the business, right? That's going to add up. I mean, you'll see that in the numbers. So, all right. Any last words on the market discussion or anything that you want to leave us with on if we're concerned, if I'm out there, I'm hearing the market's going to drop, and I'm a little concerned.
Yeah, no, it's this, guys. The market's always going to go up. It's always going to go down. The market does not determine your success. The market determines what you need to do to be successful. So don't be afraid to reevaluate. Don't be afraid to, put your nose to the grindstone, talk to a coach, talk to a mentor, and find out how do you need to adjust your activities to hit your same level.
Yep. I think that's spot on. And for those that are listening, listen, we're going to be just fine. We're here with you. You've heard me say it a million times, and I'm going to say it till I'm blue in the face. We are on the ground with you. So we know what you're going through. We know what you're experiencing, and we know what's happening as it happens. And we're going to continue to share all of our knowledge and all of our resources with you as much as we can.
Thank you for taking your time to join Jeff today on the Live Unreal with Glover U podcast. To get started on having an unreal business, take the real estate self-assessment. After you complete the assessment, a member of Glover U will get on a call with you to create an action plan to improve your score. Go to www.gloveru.com/self. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. Search for Live Unreal with Glover U on iTunes, Podbean, or Spotify and subscribe today. Until next time, remember,
the ones that are just kind of going through the motions but having success, those are going to be the ones that struggle.